Hi everyone, welcome in the channel. Today we're going to talk about how to import to a new country. Before we go ahead, remember to subscribe to the channel, leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed the video, because this is going to help us grow. So first of all, when you're importing to a new country, you should consider that most of the times you need a custom broker, unless the freight forwarder that is helping you transporting the goods already has a custom broker in-house. So recap, custom broker. You need someone that clears the goods at customs on your behalf. Then what else do you need? Other than the custom broker, you need most of the times what is called an importer code. So you need to be registered as importer when you're actually getting goods from overseas. So if you're shipping to a company that is like your distributor or someone like that, like shipping B2B, then you need their importer code, or at least their tax identification basically for the company, which is generally the importer code. And this is the same for many countries. If you're shipping to your own company because you have a branch overseas where you're actually shipping, then you need to have your importer code, your tax ID. Let's call it that way. If you're shipping instead B2C, it's not really importing, it's more like shipping to customers as private import. So it's actually the final customer that is importing the goods. Doesn't really need an importer code, but some countries may require the personal tax ID of the person. Then what else to keep in mind? So we have actually other aspects that you should consider before importing to a new country, and that's related to duties and taxes, of course. Like, you still need to consider that if you ship for the first time to that country, they may actually apply at customs when it's crossing the border a higher duty rate. So I suggest that you ship a sample, or you ship, let's say, a few little parcels before actually shipping a very big one, especially if you have not validated the HS code, the description, and the product itself when shipping. Because if you estimate it and you budget in something like 10% duty and you ended up with 15, that's a big loss when we talk about thousands of dollars of declared value of goods. Also, because some countries may have different tax rates based on the value. Like, you may have, or based on the value, based also on the products. Also, because many countries have thresholds, like tax thresholds, so you may not need that, or maybe if it's above a certain amount, you're going to pay a higher duty rate or a higher tax rate, and so on. Another aspect is, we said many times already, certificates. You need to have certificates in place if it's a product that needs to be FDA approved, for example, like cosmetics or supplements, or not all supplements, not all cosmetics, it depends. There are also like approvals that you may need to get when it comes to batteries, MSDS, so material safety data sheets, and many more. So be careful what certificates you need. And it's not only that, it's also the safety mark, for example, like the CE mark for the European Union, the UKCA for the UK, and so on. So many countries have what is called a safety mark. Korea has it, European Union has it, many countries have this mark, which basically clarifies also to consumers that this product is safe to use. And in some countries it's mandatory, in some countries it's not, it's just optional. It's good to have, but it's not mandatory. But for the countries that it is mandatory, you may be fined if you don't have it. Last but not least, documentation. Just make sure you actually have all the documents in place and you know what you need to provide to your custom broker and to your freight forwarder. Generally speaking, you need a commercial invoice, pretty much, because shipping label, it really depends. If you're shipping express, if you're shipping with a freight forwarder, then it's a different story. You need to fill in the documents that they give you pretty much. But commercial invoice, shipping declaration, when we talk about let's say batteries, you may need additional documents to fill in. So bottom line here is that most likely you need always a commercial invoice, and then additional documents based on the type of product that you are shipping. Let's say based on the country, you may have some specific requirements on what to write on the commercial invoice and how should be declared the goods, the value of the goods, if you should include taxes, what other information you should include in the commercial invoice as a declaration. Another aspect is there any anti-dumping duty? Is there any specific regulation like quotas, restrictions, like a maximum amount of products that you could import, or for example, anti-dumping duty, which means an additional duty based on the country of origin of your product. And there are many more, let's say, special cases based on the product. So you should always check with a custom broker or whoever you can talk to. We are of course happy to help, but suggestion is to confirm that your product is actually safe to ship with no additional costs expected or restrictions. Regarding regulations, when you launch product in a new market, there are actually differences between shipping cross-border to an individual, so B2C, pure B2C, because it's more like the logic behind is the final customer, like the consumer order it, he is aware of what he's getting. So it's more like the consumer, let's say, should be careful, and if they decide, whoever is buying decides that it's safe, then you take the risk basically. So it's less regulated compared to retail or like distribution or selling like into stores. So it's definitely different also in terms of labeling, certificates and regulation to follow when you're actually distributing like in stores, for example, like retail. In that case, you may have some additional requirements to meet. For example, you should register a company where you actually are selling those goods, or because if you ship B2B or ship B2C in general, you may not be required as a company, as an overseas company, to be present, to have an entity in that country. But if you start shipping retail, then if you start, selling retail, then they may require you to have a company, or the regulations around the privacy and safety are different. It depends on the country. So just be careful around that. If you're going retail, if you have a new project, you should be careful and consider that whatever you have been doing so far may not be enough in terms of compliance compared to what you should do now that you're also selling retail. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like and a comment, but also to subscribe to the channel to learn more about international logistics, e-commerce and shipping. See you in the next video.